Hello everyone, my name's Tim Scrace. My company is Scrace Architects, so hopefully that gives you a bit of a clue about what I do. I'm also a sculptor and an artist. In some ways, I've spent most of my training trying to justify being an artist, but ultimately that's led to me running my own architectural practice and having opportunities to do a lot of artistic work. So eventually I've got what I wanted out of it. So if you're training to be an architect, I can give you some pointers there. And if you're training to be or have ambitions to be an artist, I can give you some ideas of that as well. I think I've become an artist in a fairly sort of unusual way in sort of training as an architect, but that has given me opportunity and given me a different perspective when I'm approaching my artistic work, which has worked out quite well for me in the end. So let's get back to being an architect. So if you're training to be an architect, you will need to hopefully do your A-levels. Don't worry too much if you don't do as well as you thought you were going to. That's where some of my biggest lessons were learned. I still don't know what some of my grades mean on my A-levels, so all I do know is that I went through clearing. I ended up going to Portsmouth University and studying there for my first degree. So with architecture, you typically do 2 degrees with which is sort of sandwiched with professional training either side of that. So you would do a 3-year degree course, take 1 or 2 years out, and then do a further 2 years masters or the equivalent of, before then training for a further 1 or 2 years before sitting your exams to become a qualified architect. So it's quite there is a long training program. These days there are apprenticeship routes, and I'd strongly kind of encourage those because it's very vocational. Also, there's a lot of support out there, hopefully within practices to enable those, and the universities are looking at those as an option. In terms of the skills and qualities you need to become an architect, I think you probably need a passion for design, a care probably for the environment, and an ambition to be able to change things. Obviously the fundamental things of being fairly good at maths and being able to communicate what you want to say, but like I said before, I mean, grades at college are one thing, acting and practicing and doing the job is a completely different animal. So for example, talk about a typical day for an architect is quite varied. So I could be on site with a concrete pour first thing in the morning. I could be sketching on the way there or on the way back. I could be meeting someone for a fresh scheme in the afternoon, so having to come up with ideas. I might be in a loft by about 4 o'clock, measuring something out, and then probably finishing off some working drawings on a computer after that. So working hours are quite tight, but it depends who you work for. A lot of practices are quite together on welfare and looking after their workforce, and hopefully there's a bit of a shift and a gear change from the typical architectural experience I had, which was working all hours, God sent to get the projects done. In terms of promotion, tends to be quite a fairly kind of structured route. Obviously that comes with the degrees and the grades that you attain and the experience you have. Overall, I would strongly recommend thinking about your path before you venture on a 10-year route to becoming an architect, because there are different ways in which you can influence and shape the world around you. So even if you just kind of endeavour to kind of do the first stage and do the first degree, a lot of my peers have branched off into development or into creative arts. First degree is a very positive kind of learning step. And so in that sense, I would strongly recommend that as a route to take. But it doesn't necessarily mean that architecture is right for everyone. Take it from me that even with a bit of a tough career behind me, there have been lots of highlights and lots of really good moments. So when you open your first school, for example, that is quite an exciting moment with the kids rush in. There have also been some fairly big highs in just being able to kind of create spaces that are your own as well. So I've particularly enjoyed working on my own house. If you are interested in architecture, another thing that would be very beneficial is learning any of the crafts that are required to build. So any experience you can get on site is, I think, with a bit of hindsight, something that I should have done a lot earlier on in my career. But anyway, I'll leave you with that, and there's some links on my website where you can pick up on sort of pathways there, but hopefully that's informative and useful to you. Thanks, bye.